This
rating
conference will
on
now
that
be
lot.
recorded.
So I don't know what kind of volume they might be able to take, but that might be an area where we could potentially uh, be able to use some of that soil without having it cost as much as it would to have
Right.
it completely removed. And Laurel, I was just curious on some of the larger items. You mentioned on the flooring how many people might rebid. Do you have any sense on things like HVAC and electrical or structural steel? Because those were areas where we had low bidder participation and they're high dollar items.
Yes, we have for structural steel, just because I'm going in that order of the numbering, 10 people now would be interested. So 7 definite yeses, and then 3 that were pending. So we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, and we only had 2. For HVAC and plumbing, we have 4 for both of those trades. So we're expecting to rebid plumbing and HVAC and having 3 to 4 now instead of the 1. Electrical, we have 4. Oh no, our electricals, we were going to try to keep the electricians.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Yeah, because the electricians were all over budget, and it looked like we only got 2 bids on them.
Hold on, let me look. I'm not going to go from memory because I don't remember anything.
Electricians
Yes.
are 2 bids and they're over budget.
Yeah, Henley. You're right. We had 2 bids over budget, and it wasn't by much, and that's why I was just going to plan on keeping them. Because on 2 of the jobs, it's J.E. Shea, who's your phase 1 contractor, and on the 3rd job, which is Holmes, is Frank Sabia, and he's a local contractor out of Norwalk, I believe.
Well, from a dollar perspective, relative to the total, it might not appear to be a big number, but it's like 9% over.
Okay. Okay, and Holmes, he was 1,932,000, and our estimate was actually below that, our budgeted amount, or our estimated amount, I should say.
Yeah, Holmes actually looks pretty good. It's within 2% on the electrical, but on Henley and Royal, the electrical looks to be 9% over on both.
Okay. All right. Well, okay.
Yeah, Laurel, I think we have to check there, though. Wasn't that one of those instances, too, that we weren't sure how much more participation we were going to get with a rebid on that?
I got 4. We have 4 that would be interested in a rebid. Of course, you'll have Ferguson, but that's okay.
I think it's safe to say that when we meet on the 9th, we'll want to look at each of the vendors and understand what the framework you used to make each decision. And I think we will be approving or not approving each trade package. So not on the 9th, I'm speaking again on the 6th. So we probably want to make sure that the committee has enough time to review your strategy so that there's time to respond appropriately. So perhaps if we can have sort of an outline, I know you're doing a lot of work, but if we can have an outline, maybe the Friday before.
Well, I can verbally tell you, because it's the same across all 3 projects, so that everybody, unless you just want me to send you something, but I can verbally tell you what we were planning on doing for rejecting and rebidding so far is the concrete for all 3 projects, the steel for all 3 projects, the architectural casework, just because we would like to do some changes there, and we would like to put that out and get better numbers. So the millwork, the drywall, the flooring, the painting, the plumbing, the HVAC, and the site work.
Yeah.
So it's basically
and Jill, to your point for the 6th, is that each of the trades that we're looking to either keep or discard, you're looking for that rationale in advance so you can review it, right? Similar to this electrical, as to we had an opinion as to why we thought it should be kept, and you may have a different opinion and you want a few days to be able to review that before we meet and make a decision, correct?
Yes, please. That's correct.
Right.
And as a process matter, do we have to, just because if you look at the calendar, the 6th is actually, even though it's September, is closer than we think. Do we need to have made a decision on any of the possible design changes, value engineering, cost savings items in advance of that? Or is that something that can be done as part of, once we've decided to not accept certain bids and to rebid, that decision can be made as we create the revised bid packages?
Yes, I would expect that the changes, these cost revisions should be accepted at September 6th or quickly thereafter to give the design team enough time to incorporate those into the document. They need time to document it. So
Okay.
if not the 6th, the following week, or at the worst case, the week after. But
Okay. Yeah, no, I want to make sure that we all appreciate sort of how this has got to happen from a sequencing standpoint. So, for example, just to use some of the items we had talked about, right? I mean, if a decision has to be made about whether we're going to open bidding up to a larger group of HVAC system controls contractors,
Mhm.
the people who need to weigh in on that, we need to get that conversation together and happen in the next, sounds like 2 to 3 weeks, right?
Right.
We
And
need to,
Those deeper discussions about if you fundamentally agree with it or not should happen before the 6th.
Mhm. And it's unfortunate because it's the last 2 weeks of August, so it's really
yeah.
a horrible time period.
Well, I think it's more than one meeting, right? I think it's, unless others agree, I think it's a meeting to go through the proposed list. One, decide if there's anything that we absolutely don't think we should do because it maybe falls into the category of de-scoping or reducing the spec beyond which we want. And then secondly, at that meeting, who outside of the universe of the committee and the design team needs to weigh in on that, right? And then we have to have that second round. For example, if there's going to be decisions made on casework and millwork, and that's going to be a change in design, the people who may need to weigh in on that need to be looped in, whether that's Alan, Kevin, and I'm just thinking out loud, Alan, Kevin, and the principals, or others. We need to kind of do that in sequence, right? And we have X amount of time to hold those different meetings.
Mhm.
And
So
recognizing that it's also not just the end of August, but it's going to hit the first week of school starting, which, I'm not being an elementary school parent, I can only assume is going to be a little hectic.
Yeah, to your point, so it sounds like we need the design team to meet because we need to hear from the design team, just making sure that anything that's proposed still meets the design objectives and what the school would like to see happen before the 6th, and they should have some sort of summary before the 6th. Eric, go ahead. You've got it.
So I would suggest that the design team gets together with Jill and Chris and perhaps Kevin, and we can go through the full list of value engineering ideas. I would say probably 2/3 of those ideas are just sort of technical modifications to the documents that doesn't affect the educational program or aesthetics or physical plant. And so those probably can very quickly be decided on and just incorporated, assuming that we all agree with them. There's probably 8 to 12 items for each of those schools that do need outside attention and conversation with different individuals. Some of them are related to site, some of them building related, and a couple of them are education related. And so I think we can probably group the ones that are left over and then have a more focused discussion with the individuals that need to be part of those decisions.
Okay. And then fundamentally on the 6th, we'll go through the list with the entire committee In the meantime, there may be folks that not only that on the committee that should be deployed. So, for example, the temperature controls, I'd like Paul to be a part of that discussion. I know there's Patrick Hayes has some experience in fixtures and furnishings, so he should
Fixtures and
probably
millwork and things like that. Yeah.
yeah. So he'd be a good one to make sure that we pull into those discussions. So I think maybe Chris, you and I can powwow with Eric and figure out how to get this done in the short term.
Yeah, but I think just so people don't feel like we're speaking in code or keeping anyone in the dark, I think what I'll do is, and Eric, maybe if it's just easiest to, if you could, maybe just send, if you think the list that you sent around in draft form is, pretty well evolved, just send that to the committee, and that way, folks that are on, we'll ask for people's input, and then, Jill and I can be the clearinghouse for that, and then we can have a conversation with you and with Kevin.
Well, that's fine. If it's okay with you, Chris and Jill, we would just send that list to Sarah, and Sarah could distribute it.
Yeah, or I'll distribute it. It's fine. If the list that you sent around today in draft form is pretty well evolved, I'll send that around. And like I said, I don't want people to feel like we're somehow talking cryptically about some list that's out there. It's just, we just got it. We got a version of it this afternoon. So.
Right, and it's approximately 30 items, and most of the items are the same for each of the 3 schools. So it just looks like it's a long list because it's 3 times, but most of it is the same items, but listed individually for each school. But there are some changes. There are some items that are different on each of the 3 schools.
Yep, got it. So folks, just look for that. I'll send that around as soon as when the meeting's over tonight.
And I believe that's all that I had to report tonight.
Okay, questions, input, reactions from committee members, things people want to bring up?
Yeah, I just would ask Laurel and Dave, you're checking in with subcontractors, obviously plumbing and HVAC are jumping off the page. We're $13 million over just on our construction costs, not even getting, like Tom pointed out, into our soft costs. So have there been principal-to-principal discussions? Has Andy gotten on the phone? Have people gotten on the phone with the principals of these HVAC companies and plumbing companies to get commitments that they are going to rebid? Because I don't want to go through all this and end up where we're just back in the same place with the same numbers because we lose.
Yeah, no, we've been making we've been making the Paul's call. We've got the commitment of these people. Again, it's we're going to have
principals, not chief estimators, principals, who understand that you guys do a lot of work throughout the state of Connecticut, and that you do a lot of jobs, and we're not we're just asking for a commitment. We can't get guarantees, but that we're going to check in with them on a semi bi-weekly basis, that their plate hasn't gotten fuller, that something hasn't coming up that's taken their attention. Because that's my biggest fear, is we could go all through this again and end up right where we were. Like you said, Laurel, there were people you thought were bidding 4 days in, and then they didn't bid. And so, I mean, the HVAC one is very concerning. And it's a huge ticket. It's a huge ticket item, and it's a significant part of the project. So that's why, that I'm focused on it, because we want to make sure that we have proper coverage for bids, and then I'm hoping that will drive that number into a more reasonable area where it's something we can move forward with. I know I'm stating the obvious, but I just want to make sure that we feel that I guess the way I'm saying is, if you're not comfortable, if you get to the point where we're still we get where we've gone through all these things and you're still thinking we've only, because I'm hearing 4, I'd prefer to hear 6 or that, because 4 means 1 or 2 drop out, and now we're at 2 and we're back to where we kind of were. So that's why I think we should be aiming for 6 with the expectations we might lose 1 or 2, and then we're getting 4 or 3 at least.
Yeah, we're going to continue the outreach effort, Paul, for sure, and keep in touch with where things are. I mean, where are projects for other companies bidding? Where are other O&G projects or other AP projects bidding? So we're cognizant of that. And if what we're hearing as we get closer to the state is that we're not going to get it, we're going to have to make that decision of moving off a little bit. And that's we haven't really gamed through that, so I don't really want to talk about it here, but just looking at what's the last responsible moment we can make a decision on bidding and still maintain our June 2024 start. And if it means if that October 2nd starting a bidding ends up becoming October 22nd, where's that threshold there, and what leeway do we have to be malleable to what the trades need to bid the job? So we're cognizant of that, and we're going to keep watching that through the process.
Yeah, I think what we need to be careful of is if there is a December 15th deadline, which I'm not 100% convinced is a real deadline, but I don't know if there is a December 15th deadline with this OGA, Office of Grants Administration, to deal with the additional funding. So if we are not bound by that December 15th deadline, then there is some flexibility with that. And the 4 that we're saying for the plumbing and HVAC, those are like 4 100% definite with principals of the company. There are a couple of more HVAC contractors who said, well, when the time comes to bid, maybe we'll reconsider and bid you. But there are 4 definites. I mean, and that's, I know you're saying 2 of them can drop out, and that's certainly a possibility, but everybody's aware of what just happened. So,
Right. That's, again, I think I said it as plain as it can be. You don't want to end up with 1 or 2 and have these giant numbers, that we can't really get a strong feeling. We have a budget. We think this is what the budget was, but we're way over, and we don't have confidence in the bid number because we don't have coverage. So that's all I'm saying.
Yep. Agreed.
Paul, I think that's really good point, really good input, and especially those bigger ticket items, especially ones that are really just fundamental to the project, right? I think it's just keeping us up to date is as important as anything. Anything else from anybody? So, okay, well, let's Laurel and Eric and Dave and Travis and Jill, we'll see if we can start getting some dates together to, like I said, I'll get Eric's proposed list around to folks momentarily, get input on that. Let's try to get something on the calendar, in the near term, figure out what other groups within the town universe we need to get input from and move ahead on that front. Jill, anything else before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
No.
With that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to adjourn? Okay, Paul moves, Dave seconds. All in favor? I guess we're adjourned. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everybody's time.